another foodborne pathogen you've probably never heard of. If you're a food science nerd, you've almost certainly heard of ropiness, a type of spoilage in baked goods such as breads and cakes. Ropiness is a unique form of spoilage caused by spore-forming bacteria, mainly Bacillus species, whose spores survive baking and germinate in warm, moist conditions. It gets its name from the sticky, stringy and slimy crumb in spoiled breads and cakes, which can include long, web-like strands when the product is torn open. Products affected by ropiness also have a fruity, rotting, melon-like odour. Ropiness has been around since bread making began, and spore-forming Bacillus bacteria have been known as the cause of ropey bread for more than 100 years. What's new is that a Bacillus species which has never previously been associated with human illness or ropiness has been linked to an outbreak of gastrointestinal illnesses among people who ate rope-affected cakes in 2024. 35 people were sickened, developing symptoms including diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain within a few hours of eating the cake. The cakes were supplied to a company for a celebration event covering multiple sites across 2 cities by a small retail bakery. After the celebration, the company reported aberrations in the cakes, but no illnesses were reported at the time. 2 days later, epidemiologists from the State Department of Health got involved, and 2 cases of illness were discovered. An outbreak investigation was launched with celebration participants surveyed and leftover cakes tested. Interestingly, as part of the survey, workers who attended the celebration were asked about the appearance, taste and odour of the cakes and about the quantity of cake they'd eaten. People who hadn't eaten the cake and people who had not become ill were also included in the survey. Survey respondents described the cakes as discoloured, very dense and moist, off-tasting and undercooked or doughy. Some described a sweet pineapple odour. When the survey responses were analysed, investigators found that people who had eaten cakes with signs of rope spoilage had experienced gastrointestinal symptoms, and those who hadn't eaten such cakes had no symptoms, with a dose-response relationship between the quantity of cake consumed and symptoms. Unsurprisingly, people who noticed the cakes had an odour ate significantly less cake than those who experienced no odour, eating 9 grams compared to 161 grams respectively. Bacillus velezensis was found in leftover cakes, but patient samples weren't tested. Bacillus cereus was not found in the cakes. The authors of a paper that describes the incident and investigation used a post hoc fault modes effect analysis, FMEA, to identify a list of factors that could have led to the proliferation of the Bacillus velezensis in the cakes, including increased spore loading during agricultural practices, such as through its use as an inoculant during wheat farming, the high pH of the cake batter, too short cook times, too long cooling times, and a too long period between preparation and consumption of the cakes. About Bacillus velezensis. Bacillus velezensis is one of 4 conspecific strains of Bacillus subtilis, along with Bacillus amyloliquefaciens, Bacillus subtilis, and Bacillus siamensis. Bacillus velezensis is used as a natural biocontrol agent for plant pathogens, including phytopathogenic fungi. It can be found in Syngentas avatico and Sertano agricultural pesticides. The authors of the paper about the cake outbreak assert that Bacillus velezensis endospores could have been present in large numbers in the flour used to make the cakes due to the use of biocontrol agents in wheat growing or storage, saying the endospores could have survived baking and germinated in the cakes after cooking. They also discuss the undercooked appearance of at least some of the cakes, speculating that undercooking could either support the survival of the endospores or give the cakes a water activity that was more conducive to the germination and growth of the bacteria compared to fully cooked cakes. As with many Bacillus species, Bacillus velezensis exhibits antimicrobial effects due to its production of antimicrobial secondary metabolites during growth. No other organisms were found in the cakes. Is this really new? Bacillus velezensis is not a new bacterium, and its usefulness as a biocontrol agent has been extensively studied. However, its ability to cause human illness hasn't been reported until now. The authors of the paper suggest that this outbreak was only identified as an outbreak because the victims were part of a larger event across 11 locations belonging to a single business. The symptoms were relatively mild, and if the people had not all worked for the same company, they may not have attributed their illnesses to any particular event. The fact that some people thought the cake was spoiled probably contributed to their ability to remember the event, their symptoms, and the quantity of cake they consumed. The epidemiological investigation surveyed people who didn't eat the cake as well as people who did eat it, providing more confidence in the outbreak investigation results in the absence of confirmed patient isolates of the bacterium. Doesn't this sound just a bit familiar? I discussed a similar case in 2022 after researchers found a plausible link between foodborne illnesses and strains of Bacillus thuringiensis, BT, commonly used in non-chemical pesticides, and found on foods like tomatoes, bell pepper, rocket salad, and endives. Part of the reason this had been going unnoticed seemed to be because Bacillus thuringiensis and Bacillus cereus, a well-known foodborne pathogen, are closely related, and it's difficult to tell them apart using traditional microbial methods, meaning illnesses caused by Bacillus thuringiensis, which isn't officially recognised as a foodborne pathogen, may be attributed to Bacillus cereus. What can we learn from this? Bacillus bacteria and their enzymes are deliberately added to all kinds of microbial preparations, from probiotics to insecticides. I once investigated an ingredient for a chemical-free cleaning liquid which contained enzymes from Bacillus subtilis. The product spec allowed for up to 10 to the 5 viable organisms or endospores per milliliter. Those organisms and spores would have ended up in the cleaning liquid, which was marketed for use in food preparation areas presenting a spoilage risk. Not good. Big pesticide companies like Syngenta are likewise selling natural treatments for crops and seeds that contain Bacillus species. Bacillus thuringiensis, the active agent in BT pesticides, was linked with 2 outbreaks of foodborne illness in 2022, and Bacillus velezensis, the active agent in certain crop and seed treatments, has now been linked to illnesses and food spoilage as well. For food safety professionals, the risks from crop treatments are difficult to predict and mitigate, especially for treatments that have been properly approved and correctly used. If such treatments result in potentially harmful food contamination, there's little that food safety systems can do in the way of prevention until authorities revoke the pesticide's approval. I'd like to see more recognition by pesticide product developers and regulators that supposedly safe bacterial species used in biopesticide treatments for food crops could potentially cause food spoilage or illnesses in consumers. In short, Bacillus velezensis, which is used in bio-based crop protection products, was discovered to be the causative agent in a foodborne illness outbreak among consumers who consumed spoiled cakes. The species has not been recognised as a spoilage organism or pathogen previously. In 2022, another Bacillus species used in biopesticides, Bacillus thuringiensis, was linked to 2 outbreaks in Europe. And as always, you will find all the sources for everything I've said in the post online, and that is accessible through the links in the podcast show notes or the YouTube description. The main source for this story was Brannan et al. 2025, first report of the agricultural biocontrol agent Bacillus velezensis and foodborne outbreak due to rope spoilage in cakes in the Applied and Environmental Microbiology Journal.